you discover who people really are when everything falls apart. I know this because I'm a firefighter in Phoenix, Arizona. Every day, I respond to emergencies where seconds matter and lives hang in the balance. I've seen ordinary people become heroes in moments of crisis. I've watched mothers lift cars to save their children. I've seen neighbors rush into burning buildings to help strangers. I've witnessed the extraordinary courage that emerges when everything is on the line. And then there was my girlfriend Jessica and a medical emergency that revealed exactly who she was when I needed her most. We'd been together for 3 years. She lived in the house I'd bought in Scottsdale, a place I'd saved for years to afford on a firefighter's salary. On paper, everything looked perfect. Jessica was stunning, outgoing, and had this magnetic personality that drew people to her like moths to a flame. I was the steady one, the reliable one. I thought we complemented each other perfectly. I provided the foundation, and she provided the sparkle. The only constant source of tension was her best friend Madison, a social media influencer who seemed to have unlimited time and unlimited drama. Madison was one of those people who made content creation sound like the most demanding job in the world, which apparently involved daily shopping trips, elaborate lunch dates, and constant photo shoots at trendy locations around Phoenix and Scottsdale. Jessica and Madison were attached at the hip. They had their own language of inside jokes and references I never understood. Their group chats were endless streams of messages that Jessica would read and respond to, even during our conversations. Madison would call Jessica at all hours with emergencies that always seemed to involve needing a shopping companion or a photographer for her latest Instagram post. I'm not naturally a jealous person. My job has taught me to stay calm under pressure and think clearly in chaotic situations. But the dynamic between Jessica and Madison always felt off balance. It felt like I was competing for Jessica's attention with someone whose biggest concern was whether her latte had the right foam art for her story posts. Still, I loved Jessica. I chose to trust her when she said Madison was just going through a hard time and needed extra support. I chose to believe her when she promised that our relationship was her priority, even when her actions suggested otherwise. That trust was completely destroyed last Wednesday afternoon. I was at the station, halfway through a 48-hour shift, when the pain started. It began as a dull ache in my lower abdomen, the kind of thing you ignore when you're busy. But over the course of 2 hours, it escalated into something sharp and urgent. By the time I was doubled over in the apparatus bay, my captain took one look at me and ordered one of the guys to drive me to the ER. "This isn't negotiable, Richardson," Captain Martinez said. "You look like hell, and you're not responding to any calls in this condition." The emergency room at Phoenix General was busy, but triage moved me through quickly. The combination of my obvious pain and my uniform got me immediate attention. Within an hour, I was in a hospital gown with an IV in my arm and a doctor explaining that my appendix was inflamed and needed to come out immediately. "We need to operate within the next few hours," Dr. Sullivan explained. "It's not life-threatening at this point, but we can't wait. Do you have someone who can be here with you and help you get home afterward?" "My girlfriend Jessica," I told him. I gave him her contact information. "We'll call her right away," the nurse assured me. "Try to stay calm. This is routine surgery, but you'll need someone to drive you home and stay with you for at least 24 hours. They prepped me for surgery while trying to reach Jessica. As they wheeled me toward the operating room, the nurse mentioned they hadn't been able to get through to her yet, but they'd keep trying. The surgery went perfectly. I woke up groggy but pain-free, with a small incision and strict instructions about taking it easy for the next week. The recovery nurse, a kind woman named Patricia, came to check on me as I was coming fully awake. "How are you feeling, honey?" she asked, checking my vitals. "Good," I managed to say. "Did you reach my girlfriend, Jessica?" Patricia's expression shifted slightly. "We've been calling the number you gave us for the last 4 hours. No answer. Is there someone else we can contact?" 4 hours. My heart sank as the fog of anesthesia lifted. I knew exactly where she was and what she was doing. Wednesday was Madison's favorite shopping day. They had a standing weekly tradition of hitting the high-end shopping centers in Scottsdale, a marathon session that usually lasted 6 to 8 hours and involved visiting every store, trying on countless outfits, and documenting the entire experience for Madison's social media. I pulled out my phone. The screen showed 17 missed calls from the hospital. I scrolled through my notifications and saw that Jessica had been posting Instagram stories all afternoon. Photos of shopping bags, mirror selfies in dressing rooms, artfully arranged flat lays of potential purchases. She was having the time of her life while I was having surgery. I called her number. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. I sent a text message. "Jessica, I just had emergency surgery. I'm at Phoenix General. My appendix was removed. I need you to come get me and help me at home. Please call me back immediately." I watched the message show as delivered, then as read. The 3 dots appeared, indicating she was typing. Then they disappeared. Then they appeared again. Finally, Her response came through, "OMG, that's so scary, but I'm in the middle of a really important shopping day with Madison. She's having a major crisis with her brand partnerships and really needs me right now. Can't you call an Uber or something? I'll try to come by later tonight if we finish early enough. Feel better." I read the message 3 times. Each time, the words became more surreal. I had just undergone surgery, and she was treating it like an inconvenience that was interrupting her shopping plans. Madison's brand partnership crisis was more important than my medical emergency. The betrayal was so complete, so stunning, that I felt a strange calm settle over me. The hurt and disappointment were there, but they were overshadowed by a crystal clear understanding of what I needed to do. I took a screenshot of her message. Then I replied with a single word, "Okay." Then I called hospital security. "Hi, this is Michael Richardson in room 314, I said when they answered. "I need to speak to whoever handles emergency family notifications. I have a situation that needs immediate attention." The head of security, a former police officer named Detective Williams, came to my room within 10 minutes. I explained the situation to him carefully and completely. "Let me get this straight," he said, reviewing the information I'd given him. "You had emergency surgery. We've been trying to reach your emergency contact for 4 hours, and you know exactly where she is, but she's refusing to come help you?" "That's correct," I confirmed. "She's at the Scottsdale Fashion Square Mall. Based on her social media posts, she's been there all day. She knows about my surgery, but she says she can't leave because her friend is having a brand partnership crisis." Detective Williams looked at Jessica's text message on my phone. His expression hardened. "You know what, Michael," he said. "Hospital policy requires us to make every reasonable effort to ensure our patients have proper support for post-surgical care. If she's your emergency contact and she's unreachable, we have grounds to send someone to make an in-person notification about your medical situation." "I would really appreciate that," I said. "I think it's important that she understands the seriousness of the situation." Detective Williams nodded grimly. "I'll dispatch 2 of our officers to locate her at the mall and provide her with an official notification about your condition and your need for immediate assistance." I settled back into my hospital bed and waited. Jessica was having a very important shopping day. I had a feeling it was about to be interrupted. Update 1. The 2 hours I spent waiting in that hospital room were among the most peaceful of our entire relationship. The pain medication had me feeling floaty, but my mind was completely clear about what was happening. The betrayal wasn't just about this one incident. It was the culmination of 3 years of her consistently prioritizing everything else over our relationship. My colleague Jake from the fire station came to check on me. Word had gotten around about my surgery, and the guys were concerned. "How are you feeling, man?" he asked, settling into the chair beside my bed. "Physically? Great. Emotionally? Never been clearer about anything in my life." I showed him Jessica's text message. Jake read it twice, and his face went through a journey of disbelief, anger, and finally, dark amusement. "Are you kidding me?" he said. "You had surgery, and she chose shopping?" "She did," I confirmed. "So what's your plan?" he asked. "I already executed it," I said. "Hospital security is tracking her down at the mall to provide an official notification about my medical emergency." Jake stared at me for a long moment, then broke into a huge grin. "Dude, that is absolutely brilliant. She's about to get the reality check of her life." The story of what happened at Scottsdale Fashion Square came to me later from Detective Williams, who had received a full report from the officers he'd sent. It was even more satisfying than I had imagined. The Scottsdale Fashion Square is one of those upscale shopping destinations where appearance is everything. It's all marble floors, designer storefronts, and people who treat shopping like a competitive sport. Jessica and Madison were apparently in their element, moving from store to store with multiple shopping bags, stopping frequently for Madison to pose for photos and create content. 2 hospital security officers in official uniforms walked into the mall and began systematically checking stores. They located Jessica and Madison in Nordstrom, where Jessica was holding an armful of dresses, while Madison directed an impromptu photo shoot using Jessica as a model. The officers approached them directly. "Excuse me, are you Jessica Chen?" the lead officer asked, his voice professional but loud enough to catch the attention of nearby shoppers. Jessica looked up from arranging Madison's shot, her face showing mild annoyance at the interruption. "Yes, that's me. Is there a problem?" "Ma'am, I'm Officer Rodriguez from Phoenix General Hospital," he said, his tone serious and official. "We've been attempting to reach you for over 4 hours regarding a medical emergency involving Michael Richardson." The blood drained from Jessica's face. Madison lowered her phone and stared. "Mr. Richardson underwent emergency appendectomy surgery this afternoon," the officer continued. "He has been discharged and requires immediate transportation and supervision as per hospital protocol. You are listed as his primary emergency contact, and we have been unable to reach you through normal channels." Every word carried weight. Emergency appendectomy. Unable to reach you. Primary emergency contact. The officer wasn't accusatory. He was simply stating facts. But those facts painted a clear picture for everyone within earshot. The patient is currently waiting for pickup at the hospital, Officer Rodriguez concluded. Medical protocol requires that emergency contacts respond to these situations promptly. He has been waiting for several hours. A small crowd had gathered, drawn by the unusual sight of hospital security officers making an official notification in a high-end department store. Phone cameras were discreetly pointed in their direction. Madison, according to the report, looked at Jessica with an expression of dawning horror. The glamorous shopping companion had just been revealed as someone who would ignore a medical emergency for retail therapy. "That's all, ma'am," Officer Rodriguez said. "We trust you'll respond appropriately to this medical situation." The officers turned and walked away, leaving behind a stunned silence, scattered shopping bags, and the completely shattered reputation of a woman who had just been publicly exposed at her most selfish. Her very important shopping day was officially over. Update 2. The immediate aftermath was a predictable explosion of chaos, which I observed from the calm sanctuary of my recovery room. My sister Emma had driven down from Flagstaff as soon as I called her after the security officers left. She was my real emergency contact and always had been. I just hadn't wanted to worry her unless it was serious. Jessica started blowing up my phone within minutes of the officers leaving the mall. A rapid-fire sequence of increasingly frantic messages. "Michael, I'm on my way to the hospital right now. I'm so sorry. My phone was on silent and I didn't see the calls. Why did you send security guards to find me? That was so embarrassing. Madison is really upset that you ruined our day. She has a major brand event tomorrow." The progression from fake concern to indignation to blaming me was swift and revealing. I watched the messages come in without responding to any of them. Then Madison herself sent me a message on Instagram. "What you did today was completely inappropriate. Jessica was helping me through a really difficult time with my business, and you made her choose between her commitment to me and your non-life-threatening situation. You could have taken an Uber. This was manipulative and controlling behavior." I screenshot that message too. The audacity was breathtaking. A grown woman calling emergency surgery a non-life-threatening situation because it interfered with shopping plans. But the most revealing message came from Jessica's other friends. Apparently, multiple people had witnessed the mall incident, and it was already making rounds on social media. Jessica's former college roommate sent me a private message. "Hey, Michael, I heard about what happened today. I just wanted you to know that a lot of us have been concerned about how Jessica has been treating you. What happened at the mall doesn't surprise any of us. You deserve better." My sister arrived at the hospital as I was being discharged. One look at my face told her everything she needed to know about the state of my relationship. "I'm guessing Jessica won't be playing nursemaid during your recovery," she said dryly. "Jessica won't be playing anything in my life anymore," I replied. Emma drove me back to my house, where we found Jessica's car in the driveway and Jessica herself sitting on the front porch, surrounded by shopping bags and looking like she'd been crying. She jumped up when she saw us. "Michael, thank God you're okay. I came straight here from the mall." "After stopping to finish your shopping," Emma observed, noting the fresh purchase tags still attached to several items. "I can explain everything," Jessica said, following us to the front door. My phone really was on silent, and when I saw all the missed calls, I panicked. Madison needed me today because... "Stop," I said, turning to face her. "Just stop. I don't want to hear about Madison's needs or your phone settings or any of it." "But Michael, I love you. I made a mistake." "But you made a choice," I corrected. "When I needed you most, you chose shopping with Madison. That's who you are." I went inside, leaving her on the porch with her bags. Update 3. While I was recovering at Emma's house over the next few days, the full scope of Jessica's character assassination campaign became clear. She had apparently spent the entire evening after the mall incident calling mutual friends, family members, and even some of my colleagues at the fire station, trying to spin the story in her favor. Her version of events was a masterpiece of victim playing. According to Jessica, I had orchestrated a public humiliation because I was controlling and jealous of her friendship with Madison. She claimed that I had deliberately sent security officers to embarrass her instead of simply calling her myself. She told people that my surgery was minor and routine and that I was being dramatic and manipulative by making it seem like an emergency. The problem with her narrative was that too many people had witnessed the actual events, and the timeline didn't support her claims. Multiple shoppers at the mall had recorded parts of the security notification, and several of those videos had already made their way to social media. In the age of smartphones, it's hard to control a story when there's video evidence. My fire captain, Rodriguez, called me on Thursday evening while I was still at Emma's place. "Richardson," he said, his voice serious. "I got a strange call from your girlfriend today. Ex-girlfriend, I guess. She wanted to file some kind of complaint about you misusing hospital resources or something. I told her she was barking up the wrong tree and that if she had issues with hospital policy, she should take it up with Phoenix General, not the fire department. I appreciate you having my back, Cap, I said. Listen, Mike, he continued, using my first name, which he rarely did. I've known you for 8 years. You're one of the most level-headed guys on the force. Whatever went down between you two, I know you handled it the right way. But this woman sounds like she's got some serious issues. Watch yourself. That conversation was my first indication that Jessica wasn't going to go quietly into the night. She was going to fight this, and she was going to try to make me the villain. The next few days brought a parade of friends and acquaintances reaching out to me, each with their own version of the story Jessica had told them. The details varied wildly depending on who she was talking to, but the central theme remained the same. I was a controlling, manipulative boyfriend who had humiliated her for having friends and interests outside our relationship. My longtime friend and fellow firefighter, Tom Brady, yes, that's his real name, and yes, he's heard every joke, stopped by Emma's house on Friday with a six-pack and a look of barely contained anger. Dude, what the hell is wrong with your ex? He said, settling into the chair beside the couch where I was camped out. She called my wife Sarah yesterday, trying to get her to believe that you're some kind of abusive psychopath. Sarah told her exactly where she could stick that story. What did she tell Sarah? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. She said you had a minor medical procedure, and that when she couldn't immediately drop everything to come to the hospital, you sent security guards to her location to humiliate her in front of her friends. She made it sound like you had an ingrown toenail removed, and then called in a SWAT team because she didn't answer her phone fast enough. Tom opened a beer and handed it to me. Sarah asked her point blank what kind of procedure you had, and Jessica said she wasn't sure of the details, but that it wasn't serious. So Sarah told her that anyone who doesn't know the details of their boyfriend's surgery probably isn't qualified to judge whether it was serious or not. I like Sarah, I said. Yeah, well, Sarah likes you too, which is why she told Jessica that if she ever called our house again with that bullshit, she'd have some choice words for her about what constitutes appropriate emergency response. The pattern repeated itself over the weekend. Friend after friend, colleague after colleague, reached out to let me know that Jessica had contacted them with increasingly desperate versions of her story. But each person she contacted seemed to walk away more convinced that something was seriously wrong with her, not with me. The turning point came on Sunday when Jessica made the mistake of calling my mother. My mom, Carol Richardson, is a retired emergency room nurse who spent 30 years dealing with actual medical emergencies. She has zero patience for drama and even less patience for people who prioritize shopping over health crises. Michael, my mother said when she called me that evening, her voice tight with controlled fury. I just got off the phone with Jessica. She spent 20 minutes trying to convince me that you're some kind of monster for sending security guards to harass her while she was shopping. What did you tell her, Mom? I told her that in 30 years of emergency medicine, I've seen a lot of different reactions to medical crises, but I've never seen someone choose retail therapy over their partner's surgery. I told her that any woman who thinks appendectomy is minor has clearly never seen what happens when an appendix ruptures. And I told her that if she ever calls my house again to badmouth my son, I'll drive down to Phoenix and have a conversation with her that she won't enjoy. My mother paused, and I could hear her taking a deep breath. Michael, in all the years you've been a paramedic and firefighter, you've never asked for help unless it was serious. The fact that you needed surgery and she chose shopping tells me everything I need to know about her character. You're better off without her. Coming from a woman who had liked Jessica and had always been polite and welcoming to her, this was a damning assessment. Update 4. The next week brought what I now think of as the Great Unraveling. Jessica's attempts to control the narrative had backfired so spectacularly that she was actually making things worse for herself with every phone call. The final blow to her credibility came from an unexpected source, Madison herself. Apparently, as the story spread through their social media circles, Madison realized that being associated with someone who ignored medical emergencies was bad for her brand. On the following Tuesday, exactly 1 week after my surgery, Madison posted a lengthy Instagram story that completely threw Jessica under the bus. The post, which was screenshot and sent to me by at least 6 different people, read, I want to address some rumors that have been circulating about events that occurred last week. I was shopping with a friend when we were approached by hospital security officers. I had no prior knowledge of any medical emergency involving her boyfriend. When I learned that he had undergone surgery and needed assistance, I immediately urged her to go to the hospital. I was shocked and disappointed by her decision to prioritize shopping over a medical emergency. This does not reflect my values or the kind of behavior I support. I believe that when someone you love needs help, everything else should take a back seat. I hope the individual involved has fully recovered from his surgery. The post was carefully crafted to distance Madison from Jessica while making Madison look like the reasonable, compassionate one. It was calculated and self-serving, but it was also devastating to Jessica's attempts to portray the shopping trip as some kind of crucial support mission. Jessica called me that evening, sobbing and hysterical. "Michael, please, you have to help me," she said through tears. "Madison posted that thing on Instagram, and now everyone thinks I'm this horrible person. My friends won't talk to me, my family is asking questions, and people at work are looking at me weird. You have to tell people that this isn't who I really am." "Jessica," I said calmly, "this is exactly who you really are. You had a choice between helping me after surgery and continuing to shop. You chose shopping. That's not a misunderstanding or a misrepresentation. That's a decision you made." "But I was scared," she cried. "I don't know anything about medical stuff, and Madison really needed me that day. I panicked and made a bad choice, but it doesn't mean I don't love you." "Being scared doesn't make you choose shopping over hospitals," I replied. "And if Madison really needed you more than I did after surgery, then you've made your priorities very clear." "Please, Michael, everyone hates me now. I'll do anything to fix this. I'll never see Madison again. I'll change. I'll be better. Just please help me fix this." The desperation in her voice was real, but it wasn't regret about hurting me. It was panic about the social consequences of her actions. She wasn't sorry she had abandoned me. She was sorry that abandoning me had cost her so much. "Jessica, I can't fix your reputation for you. I can't make people forget what you did. And honestly, I wouldn't even if I could. You made a choice that showed everyone exactly who you are when the stakes are real. I'm not going to help you convince people that they didn't see what they saw." She hung up on me. It was the last conversation we ever had. Update 5. Over the next few months, I got periodic updates about Jessica's life through the grapevine. The social fallout had been even more severe than I had anticipated. Her job at a local marketing firm had apparently become uncomfortable. While no one said anything directly, the story had made its way through her professional network, and people were treating her differently. When you work in marketing, your personal brand matters, and being known as the woman who chose shopping over her boyfriend's emergency surgery isn't exactly the image most companies want associated with their team. She ended up leaving the job after a few months and moving back in with her parents in Tucson. Her social media presence, which had once been filled with glamorous photos from her adventures with Madison, became sporadic and then virtually non-existent. Madison, meanwhile, had moved on to a new best friend, a local yoga instructor who fit better with her wellness and mindfulness brand. The speed with which she had replaced Jessica and the calculated nature of her Instagram post made it clear that their friendship had been just as transactional as I had always suspected. But the most telling update came from an unexpected source. Jessica's cousin, Maria, who worked as a nurse at a different hospital in Phoenix. Maria and I had always gotten along well during family gatherings, and she reached out to me about 6 months after the incident. "Mike," she said when she called, "I wanted to apologize for what my cousin did to you. What she did was inexcusable, and I'm embarrassed that she's family." "You don't need to apologize for Jessica's choices," I told her. "The thing is," Maria continued, "I don't think you know the worst part of the story. Jessica called me the day after the mall thing happened, looking for sympathy. She wanted me to tell her that what she did was understandable because she doesn't handle medical emergencies well and panics around hospitals." "What did you tell her?" "I told her that I've been a nurse for 12 years, and I've seen every possible reaction to medical crises. Fear is normal. Panic is understandable. But choosing to stay shopping instead of going to help the person you supposedly love? That's not fear. That's selfishness." Maria paused, and I could hear her choosing her words carefully. But here's the thing that really bothered me. When I told her that what she did was wrong, she didn't defend her actions. She didn't say she was scared or confused. She said, I know it was wrong, but Madison would have been so upset if I left her alone, and she's been through such a hard time lately. Even after everything that happened, she was still prioritizing Madison's feelings over your medical emergency. This revelation shouldn't have surprised me, but it did. Even in the aftermath, even when trying to explain herself to family, Jessica's primary concern had been Madison's emotional state, not my physical well-being. She asked me if I thought you would ever forgive her, Maria continued. I told her that forgiveness isn't the issue. The issue is that she showed you exactly who she is when it matters most, and now she has to live with the consequences of that choice. Final update. It's been 14 months since the appendectomy that ended my relationship and changed my perspective on everything. My surgical scar is completely gone now, invisible unless you know exactly where to look. But the emotional clarity that came from that day has only grown stronger with time. The most unexpected consequence of the whole situation was how it affected my work as a firefighter. I had always been good at my job, but the experience with Jessica gave me a new perspective on what real emergencies look like and how people reveal their true character under pressure. About 3 months after the breakup, we responded to a car accident on I-10. A family of 4 had been hit by a drunk driver, and the scene was chaotic. While we were working to extract the father from the wreckage, his wife, who had a broken arm and was clearly in pain, kept trying to help us, to hold his hand, to stay close despite our efforts to get her to safety. "Ma'am, you need medical attention too," I told her. "Let the paramedics take care of you." "I'm not leaving him," she said firmly. "He would never leave me." In that moment, watching this woman ignore her own pain to stay with her husband during the worst moment of their lives, I thought about Jessica choosing shopping bags over my hospital bed. The contrast was so stark, so absolute, that it felt like looking at 2 different species. That's when I really understood that what happened wasn't just about one bad day or one poor choice. It was about fundamental character, about the kind of person you are when everything else falls away. The family all survived, by the way. 6 months later, they sent a thank you card to the station. Inside was a photo of all 4 of them at their daughter's graduation, everyone healthy and smiling. The wife had written a note, "Thank you for saving our family. The worst day of our lives led to the most grateful days of our lives." I kept that card on my locker for months. It reminded me that real love shows up when everything is falling apart, not when everything is convenient. My personal life, meanwhile, had become wonderfully quiet. I spent the first few months after Jessica focusing on work, on my friendships, on fixing up my house, on all the things I had neglected while I was trying to manage her drama and Madison's constant crises. I started dating again about a year later. Nothing serious at first. Just coffee dates and casual dinners with women who seemed genuinely interested in having conversations that didn't revolve around social media strategies or brand partnerships. And then, about 6 months ago, I met Sarah. Sarah is a teacher at an elementary school in Tempe. She's quiet, thoughtful, and has this way of being completely present in conversations that I had forgotten was possible. On our second date, she asked me about my work, and I found myself telling her stories about calls I'd been on, about the people I'd helped, about why I became a firefighter in the first place. She listened with genuine interest, asked thoughtful questions, and never once checked her phone or took a selfie. The test came, ironically, on our 4th date. We were at a restaurant in downtown Phoenix when my pager went off. Major structure fire. All hands needed immediately. "I'm sorry," I said, already standing up. "I have to go. This is a big one." Sarah looked at the barely touched appetizers on our table, then at my face. She could see the urgency, the way I was already mentally transitioning into work mode. "Go," she said without hesitation. "Be safe. Call me when you can. No drama, no complaints about ruined plans, no suggestions that I could ignore the call or let someone else handle it. Just immediate understanding that my job sometimes requires me to leave everything and run toward danger." I fought that fire for 6 hours. When I finally got home at 3 a.m., exhausted and smelling like smoke, I had a text from Sarah. Saw the news coverage. Glad everyone got out safely. Get some rest. That's when I knew I had found someone completely different from Jessica. Someone who understood that real life sometimes interrupts dinner plans, that emergencies don't check your calendar, that caring about someone means supporting what matters to them even when it's inconvenient. We've been together for 6 months now, and not once has she made me feel like I need to choose between her and anything else that's important to me. She comes to station events, has become friends with my colleagues' wives and girlfriends, and treats my work with the respect it deserves. Last month, she was the one who had a medical emergency. Food poisoning that turned into severe dehydration, and she needed to go to the ER. I was the one who drove her, stayed with her for hours, held her hand while they put in the IV, and took care of her afterward. The difference was profound. Instead of being annoyed that illness had interrupted our weekend plans, I was grateful that I could be there for her. Instead of feeling like her needs were competing with my wants, I felt like being her partner in a crisis was exactly where I was supposed to be. That's what real love looks like. It shows up. It stays. It doesn't calculate whether helping is convenient or whether being needed is flattering. Jessica tried to contact me one last time about 2 months ago. A message through LinkedIn, of all places, probably because I had blocked her everywhere else. She had apparently heard through mutual acquaintances that I was in a new relationship, and she wanted to wish me well and tell me that she was happy I found someone who appreciates me. The message was long and rambling, full of vague apologies and hints that she had grown as a person and learned from her mistakes. She mentioned that she was in therapy, that she understood now how her conflict avoidance and people-pleasing tendencies had hurt our relationship. Even in her attempt at self-reflection, she couldn't quite bring herself to acknowledge what she had actually done. It wasn't conflict avoidance that made her choose shopping over surgery. It wasn't people-pleasing that made her prioritize Madison's brand crisis over my medical emergency. It was selfishness, pure and simple, and the fact that she still couldn't name it told me that she still didn't understand it. I didn't respond to the message. There was nothing to say. She had shown me exactly who she was on the worst day I'd had in years, and no amount of therapy or personal growth could change that fundamental truth. The most satisfying part of this whole experience isn't the revenge or the public humiliation she faced. It's not even the poetic justice of her losing the very friendships she had prioritized over our relationship. The most satisfying part is the life I've built since then. The peace of being with someone who shows up when it matters. The security of knowing that if I ever need help again, the person I love will drop everything to be there for me, just like I would for her. Jessica chose shopping over surgery, and in doing so, she lost everything that really mattered. But her loss became my freedom, and her absence created space for someone infinitely better to enter my life. Sometimes, the best thing someone can do for you is show you exactly who they are when it counts. Jessica did me that favor, even though she didn't mean to. The hospital security officers walking into that department store weren't just delivering a message about my medical emergency. They were delivering the truth about who she really was. I'm grateful for that truth, even though it hurt at the time. Because the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than living a lie. And the lie I had been living was that someone who would choose shopping over my surgery could ever be a real partner to me. Now I know better. Now I have better. And I sleep soundly every night, knowing that if I ever end up in another emergency room, the person who loves me will move heaven and earth to be there, not because it's convenient, but because that's what love actually does when everything else falls away. The appendix was successfully removed, and so was everything else that was toxic in my life. Sometimes surgery is exactly what you need, even when you don't realize you need it. Sometimes the best cure is cutting away the things that are slowly poisoning you, even when they're beautiful on the surface. Jessica couldn't risk missing a shopping opportunity for a medical emergency. In the end, I was the one who made the best purchase of all. I bought myself freedom from someone who would never put me first when it truly mattered, and I used that freedom to find someone who shows up when it counts. That's the difference between love and everything else. Love shows up. Everything else has better things to do.